So I'm up in the Alps where it has suddenly turned quite chilly and I have decided to take a little break, kind of going into hibernation or reflection or cocoon. Gosh, there's so many different metaphors I could use. But bottom line is, I feel like this year has been really intense between publishing 2 books, working with 40 different authors, and leading 13 psilocybin ceremonies, and traveling to multiple countries, and of course, getting married to the love of my life. And I realized that in the midst of doing all of this, the podcast, all of these online summits and appearances, realizing that my creative part is demanding time to just to immerse myself in exploration and play. So I've decided to not book myself solid for 2024 and really scale back on some of my offerings. Also, I feel like I'm going through a transformation again. It's like a lot of us go through these periods where we feel like something inside is happening. There's like an awakening or a shattering of who we've been. And a lot of people call it midlife crisis or crisis of identity. Some people call it the dark night of the soul. But it's been really inspiring me to look at San Juan de la Cruz and his original poem, Noche Oscura, which people call him Saint John of the Cross. He was a 16th century Spanish poet and mystic, and he himself went through a dark night, which is what his poem is called, Dark Night. It's always bothered me that people called it the dark night of the soul. The soul isn't going through the dark night, the ego is. It's the dawn of the soul. It's the soul finally saying, let me out, let me be the guide in this life, not the ego with all of its contrived leanings, desires, obsessions, neuroses. Over the last, 15 years, 20 years, 30, 52 years, my soul has been, calling out for this sense of being able to be true to me. While the things that I've done have been with heart and passion and a desire to support others, I also feel like I owe it to myself to let the part of my soul that really craves authentic expression and creativity, like that part needs to see the light of day. So going through my own dark night also feels like going into a cocoon. But this time, rather than feeling a sense of despair, as I did 17 years ago when I had my near-death experience, it really did feel like then my world was crumbling, my identity was shifting, and I felt a sense of like that hopelessness and despair. Whereas this time, hindsight is 2020, I realized that the dark night is followed by the dawn, and that despair is followed by hope. And so going into a kind of dark night, a cocoon, where I get to like recalibrate, let my own cells and soul reconfigure into the next iteration of me, the butterfly that I will emerge as. Now it's starting to feel exciting. I mean, this has been bubbling up in me for a while. This is not a new revelation, but making it public, while it's not necessary, I just felt like I wanted to share this with my community. I've already shared that I will be talking a lot more about this dark night of the ego and how we can move through the dark night to embrace the dawn with a little more grace and being able to surrender the ego without as much of that struggle that some of us go through, that I certainly went through. So stick around. Yeah, stick around if you're curious.